Hey YouTube, Mike the Alpha Hoarder here. So today I wanted to do round two, browse a little bit into my hoard, into the blue commons today, share that with you guys, revisit some of the old cards, just have a little stroll down memory lane. I did this previously with my white commons, and rather to my surprise, it remains, as of today, it's my most disliked video. So I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of that. I've had a few conversations in the comments on other videos about it, but you know, I came on here to sort of share and document, and hopefully the people watching understand that. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. So why so many commons? You know, why do I have binders of common cards? Well, let's chat about that for a minute before we get into the binder. I did this because I love the cards. So, you know, first and foremost, I'm a collector. But the reason I did this with commons in particular is because I speculated, this was 4 or 5 years ago now, I speculated that I'd get a better ROI on the commons. And I do have some data to back that up, but it's far from a full picture. You know, it's a little hard to, I don't have access to the full amount of data I would need to draw clear lines here, but what I started doing once I was really getting heavier into this is I started tracking some things on my own. So for instance, I have a spreadsheet that I put together in 2019 where I put the average listing price of every alpha common. And I updated that in 2021, and I did it again in 2022, and this was using TCG Player. So I'll just give you a summary of that, and then we can look at some cards. But in 2019, a light played common card on average was selling for $26.52. In 2022, as of a couple of months ago, that was $123.64. So that's a 466% increase. If you do the same thing with uncommons, my 2019 spreadsheet, I was seeing the average listing price for an uncommon was $118.46. And when I updated this a few months ago, it was $472.10. So 398% increase. And finally for rares, again, light played, and in this case, the least accurate, I think, just because the sales of rares are so infrequent and so condition dependent and all this. But the numbers I had, 2019, the average rare was selling for $1,898. Whereas when I updated this recently, $6,454. $6,454. So commons appreciated on average 466%, uncommons 398%, and rares 339%. And you know, that's a trend that in my opinion is sort of an imbalance reconciling itself. You know, commons I think were undervalued, and so they had some catching up to do in compared to the rares. And you know, look, that was a speculation. Who can say whether that's going to continue? You know, the market doesn't feel as off as it did back then. You know, these days the average light played common is now over $100. Keep in mind that's skewed. When I average across the commons, that's including, you know, the lightning bolts, the dark rituals, Llanowar elves. But you know, as a rough picture, I think it sort of paints the story. So that was why I was interested in commons, and so I started collecting them. And I have in these particular binders, I showcase 18 complete commons sets. And today we'll look at the blue. So the Sunset Island. This is many people's favorite land. I love it too. It doesn't happen to be my favorite. I always found the swamps a little bit more. They drew me in a little more. And there's a certain vastness to the mountains that I love. But very beautiful card. Blue Elemental Blast. 1 blue for an interrupt. Counters a red spell being cast or destroys a red card in play. So this stands in opposition to the red Elemental Blast. And the art between this card and that one is sort of nicely inverted. This is the water against the red versus the fire against the blue. So very cool. Creature Bond. Very strange artwork. Always caught my attention as a kid. She's a creepy looking lady, and she's got quite a nice friend there. 2 for an enchant creature. If target creature is destroyed, then this basically does the creature's toughness and damage to the controller, which is pretty cool. I'm not a player, so unfortunately I can't add too much commentary on if this stuff is still useful, say in Alpha 40 or anything, but you know, this card was long ignored, I feel. As little as a year ago, near mint copies were selling in the 20s and 30s. And it's gotten more attention in the last year. You know, the inventory on these old cards has really started drying up, but it remains one of the cheaper ones. As does Flight. This is another card that you can get pretty cheap. 1 blue to give a creature flying. It's cool art. In the background we have these sort of reliefs of, I don't know, sword ladies falling. I love the contrast with the red. Invisibility. 2 blue, target creature can only be blocked by walls. Walls sort of vanished, haven't they? But I always love this art. It's subtle, it's spooky. It's got a touch more realism than some of the other cards. You know, that just looks like a person. Very spooky. Jump. One blue. Target creature is a flying creature until end of turn. So this is a instant speed, temporary version of Flight. And this and I think Dwarven Warriors were the 2 cheapest commons. Maybe the Circle of Protections were in there. Well, anyway, 2 of the cheapest alpha commons for the longest time were Jump and Dwarven Warriors. And so, you know, of course, I was buying lots and collections and cheap singles. It's getting harder to find lots of alpha cards these days, but, you know, not 2 years ago you really could still do that. But I ended up with a lot of copies of this card. I didn't target it. I didn't have a particular affinity for this card, but I just ended up with a lot of copies, and it remained cheap for so long that I kept buying them. And so now I've got a lot. In my opinion, the art actually looks a little bit better for Flight, and Flight looks a little bit better for Jump. I don't know. Seems more like she's falling after jumping and he's flying up, but, you know. Oh, right, so this binder is laid out a little bit differently than the white one. The white one I gave 1 page to each common. In this case, I tried to just fill the binder. So I've got more than 1 page for some of these. But anyway, got a lot of copies of Jump. All right. What the hell's wrong with me? Oh, good. If anyone knows what's wrong with me, tell me in the comments. Merfolk. 1 blue for a vanilla 1/1. Iconic art. Still a relevant creature type, so I don't know if this card is played, but it's a cool card. Love the art. Another one that was on the cheaper side through about 2021, but it's now actually jumped over. There was sort of a bin of undervalued commons. This was in that bin, but it has leaped out since. So, Phantasmal Terrain. 2. Target land changes to any basic land of the caster's choice. Blah, blah, blah. Alpha had a handful of cards that screwed around with color. I don't know if that's still a thing. I tried to build a deck around that. It was kind of fun, but I don't know. It's very particularized. I doubt this card gets play, but someone can correct me in the comments. It's certainly useful at disabling an opponent's land, or I guess you could change your own land if you're not drawing the color you want. But you know, the art never really did this for me. You know, I don't know why. Some speak to you, some don't. This one never really did, but cool card. It was renamed from illusionary terrain during testing. Fun little fact. Power Leak. Drew Tucker is an artist I really like. He does these sort of abstract watercolory pieces. He did Exorcist, which I have a buyout video about. He did a bunch. City in a Bottle, he did a bunch. But a lot of them are this sort of vague, I don't know the art term for it, but I think what I said last time was it leaves more to the imagination. And sometimes if you can do that well, if you can leave more to the imagination, you end up with a more impactful card. And I found a lot of his art does that for me anyway. But 1 and a blue. Target enchantment gets an upkeep cost of 2 colorless, or else the owner takes damage for each card unpaid. Mana unpaid. Okay, I don't know exactly how I picked which ones. I think the ones I like get more than 1 page. Power Sink. Gonna be honest, this always looked to me like a guy with bad allergies, and he was just hit by an unexpected sneeze, and his boogers came out everywhere. It's just mucus all over the place. So probably not what Richard Thomas had in mind. I love some of his other pieces, but this one grossed me out for that particular reason. X and a blue for an interrupt. Target spell is countered unless its caster spends X more mana. And then a whole other block of text that was popular back those days. Prodigal Sorcerer. 2 and a blue, tap to do 1 damage to any target for 1/1. So direct damage blue, pretty cool. Schuler art, classic in his style. This was Richard Garfield's favorite card, as I understand it. Psychic Venom. 1 and a blue, whenever target land is tapped, Psychic Venom deals 2 damage to target land's controller. I love the art. It's a badass snake. And those eyes sort of recall Word of Command to me, although those are different artists. But, I don't know, it just sits very well within the blue frame. Another one. I feel like I say it a lot because I think it was true a lot, but this was quite an underpriced common. It seems to have caught up more. Even since I started this channel, many of these have sort of moved to where I thought they should be. Sea Serpent. 5 and 1 for a 5/5. Sea Serpent cannot attack unless opponent has islands in play, and it's destroyed if the controller doesn't have islands. Let's see. Yeah, basically just real iconic card. I mean, pretty big for those days. 5/5. It's just hard to explain how cool it was as a kid to pull a creature like this, you know? When you see numbers above 4, really, you just get all excited. And, you know, that art really does it. The drawback seems kind of terrible to me. I don't really know. Maybe it's not. But if I had to guess, it probably doesn't get that much play. I suppose you could pair it with that Phantasmal Terrain. Yeah, this is why I don't play. But very, very iconic. Spell Blast. X and 1 blue, counter target spell, where X is the cost of the spell. So it's basically like a really expensive counter spell. Or I guess it's the equivalent of a counter spell. if the spell you're targeting costs 1. Otherwise, it's more expensive. And it's just iconic. I mean, this poor dude was minding his own business, casting a spell, and then the thing explodes in his face. But yeah, the colors shine great in the blue frame. Twiddle. For 1 blue, tap or untap any 1 land, creature, or artifact in play. I just love this artwork. There's a weird portion of this floating stone that sort of recalls a face. And then these sinewy, vein-like structures that are growing down, weaving around everything. It's just awesome. Don't know what it has to do with the ability, but don't care. Love it. Unsummon. 1 blue to unsummon target creature. I love this card. I spent a long time trying to figure out who it was that was being unsummoned. I compared it to all the other art cards from the Alpha set. It doesn't quite line up with anything. You know, within the Schuler arts, I guess it's closest to a demonic tutor, but that guy's not a creature, so it doesn't really make sense. It recalls Keldon Warlord or Herloon Minotaur, but not quite, so I don't think it actually does line up. But this is the one with the strange error. They did a replace all, and instead of discarded, it just says card in all caps. But fun card. I can't remember if this one was as severely underpriced. I don't think so. I don't think it was as overlooked as, say, Flight or something like that. And then the second art. So in Alpha, all the basic lands have exactly 2 art versions. The reason they added the third in beta, just in case you're curious, it's because the packaging for Alpha advertised 300 unique cards, but there were actually only 295. And so, in order to avoid false advertising problem, they the easiest way to get the extra 5 was to add the 2 they'd missed, the Volcanic Island and the Circle of Protection Black, and then just give another art to each of the colors, and then boom, you got your 300. I do not have a very big position in the lands. That's something I did not appreciate, and now that I've come to appreciate it, the prices have escaped me a bit for what I want to pay. But it's an interesting market that I'd like to dig into a little bit deeper. People really like to bling out their decks with Alpha lands, and you know, Alpha 40 obviously requires some lands, so it's one aspect of Alpha that I have underappreciated, to my detriment, I think. So anyway, that is the blue portion of my commons hoard. If you enjoyed today's video, and if you're enjoying my channel, then something is probably wrong with you, and you should seek medical attention at once. See you next time.